So, if you like kids, like being in new cultures, and want to travel the world while being paid, becoming an au pair might be for you, and you gotta check out this episode. Take a listen. Welcome to the Gap Year Podcast, where we explore the who, what, where, when, and why of gap years. It's real people sharing their stories, ideas, and experts diving deep into how you can make the right decisions in order to have a meaningful gap year. This is the place to be no matter where you are on your gap year journey. I'm Michelle Dittmer, your resident gap year expert. Let's jump right in. Hey there, and welcome to the Gap Year Podcast. My name is Michelle Dittmer, and I am your host and Gap Year expert. Today, we dive into the world of au pairs. And if you don't know what that is, I have just the gal who's going to shed some light on that. Today, I have Natalia with me, and I am not going to take away any of her glory. I'm going to pass it right over to her. Natalia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are coming to chat about au pairs today?
Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say I'm really excited to be here. So I'm Natalia, and I am the marketing coordinator for a company called AuPair in America. So I do the social media, I create the campaigns. So all the basically creative, fun stuff I get to do for the company. And that's me.
Amazing. Now, you said au pair in America, but you don't have an American accent.
Yes.
So I'm guessing
Yeah.
you are not in the US yourself.
Yes, that's right. So the headquarters of AuPair in America are based in London in the UK. So that is where I'm from. And that's where I'm coming to you from. It's called AuPair in America because we recruit au pairs from all over the world to go and live in America. And it just so happens that it all kind of started in London. So, I work at the headquarters.
And I think that's really, really important for us to know because au pair isn't a term that is as familiar here in Canada or here in North America as it is in Europe. So it's great to have an expert that has a little bit more of those cultural roots in this concept that can really help us to dive into that a little bit. So what kind of led you into this field of experiential learning and young people getting out there? What was your career journey to get here?
Yeah, so to be honest, I'm the same as you. I didn't actually know much about au pairing myself. It's actually not that common here in the UK either. I actually learned about it because I did a program with Au Pair in America's sister company called Camp America. I don't know if you in Canada have anything similar to Camp America where you kind of have summer camp programs. I did Camp America because that's really big in the UK. Everyone knows Camp America, it's a big name. So I went ahead and did it during the summer of my second year at university. And after hearing about Camp America and after experiencing that, I enjoyed myself so much. I was in the US for like 3 months. I obviously gained such a amazing experience. I only did it for 3 months, so I wanted to do it for longer, but I didn't know that I could do it for longer. And I'm really kicking myself that I hadn't heard about au pair in America before, because I really wish I had. And I think it's the same for a lot of Camp America applicants. They'd never heard of au pair in America, and they think that they need to keep going back to this kind of short term, 2 months in over the summer, and then going back to reality when it's not summer, and then kind of giving that up and doing summer again, because we get a lot of like repeat campers, and they don't know that you can kind of spend a whole year in America doing the Au Pair in America program. And I was one of those people. I found out about it because I heard that there was a job role opening in marketing, and I went for it, and that's kind of how I found out about it.
I think it's so amazing to have that lived experience that you can then apply to a role, especially in marketing when you're telling stories, you're sharing people's experience and you can connect with them on a really, really cool level because you had a very similar experience to them. And that is so powerful.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, though Camp America and AuPair in America are quite different, they're part of the same umbrella company. So they're both part of a huge organization called AIFS, which is the American Institute for Foreign Study. And they do so many different sort of programs. They do kind of like student exchange programs and things like that. So I think they're kind of one in the same in that sort of sense, where it's cultural exchange. You get to kind of change your life for a while, you get to experience adventure, you get to experience another culture, you get to go abroad. And I think anyone that's experienced that knows what it's like for someone who's done something similar or wants to do something similar. I think it's all kind of like a community experience. We've all got a shared secret, and it's that we've done a cultural exchange, and we all know how special that is.
I think that you hit the nail on the head there. It's a secret little club you don't know you're not a part of until you've had that incredibly immersive experience. But let's jump into the nitty gritty because maybe au pair might be a new term for some people or a new concept. So I'd love if you could describe a little bit about what an au pair is and what do they do?
Yeah, so I learned that au pair actually means on par. I think it's French, but don't quote me on that. But it's supposed to mean on par, so equal to. And I think that sort of sums up what the difference is between an au pair and, say, a babysitter or a nanny, in the fact that an au pair is a sort of live-in nanny. So the au pair would have to be a young person, and they would travel abroad for childcare reasons and live with the host family in their homes. And so they wouldn't just be the kind of child's babysitter, they would be an equal member of the family. And that's what we hope happens for all of our au pairs, and it most certainly does. So, of course, you know, what is an au pair apart from having the kind of necessary requirements of, you know, having a driver's license, being of a certain age. It's different because an au pair becomes a real part of the family. They learn to really love each other by the end of the year, and it's a completely different dynamic because you share each other's culture as well. So that's why we really focus on the fact that it's a cultural exchange. The family will really learn about a different culture, and you know, for example, they'll celebrate each other's countries' national holidays. And the au pair will kind of spend, you know, Christmas, Thanksgiving with that family. They'll meet that family's kind of other parts of their family. They'll meet the grandparents, they'll meet the cousins and uncles and aunts. So they'll really form strong emotional connections that kind of by the end of the year they'll kind of end up going to the airport, leaving their experience crying and not wanting to go, which is why we offer for them to be able to stay for an extra year if they want. But it's, you know, sometimes we get au pairs that go back home and they say that they experience homesickness for, you know, America. You know, they go back to their home country and they feel homesick because they feel like their home is with their host family and in the USA. So I think that kind of sums it up, really. It's more than just kind of babysitting. It's starting a new life, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's so cool to not only take on the role of childcare as like your quote unquote work part of it, but really becoming an adopted member of another family in another country who lives a little bit differently than you do, and to be welcomed with open arms as a member of that family. I think that that is so incredible to have such a meaningful experience, and to be able able to use the skills that you have right now to have a working abroad experience where you can earn money, but also develop these really lasting and meaningful relationships and develop an extended family that will just be part of your life as you move on, and as you're such an integral part of the kids' life, as you get to experience all of those milestones of growth, of celebration, of tragedy, whatever happens in that year, you are fully part of it. And I think that that is something that a lot of us are really looking for, is that level of connection and belonging, while also developing the responsibilities associated with the independence and watching over the kids and managing schedules and caring for all of the different social and emotional and physical needs that come up in a family. It's a really powerful experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, some of these au pairs and host families, they go through so much together. They really go through roller coasters. I mean, and in the end, it makes them come together so much stronger, especially kind of during the pandemic as well. It was a lot to go through for kind of any human being, but especially kind of going to another country, being away from your what you're used to. The au pairs really needed that kind of strong support network, and a lot of them feel like after the pandemic and during the pandemic they wouldn't regret kind of being there during the pandemic. Their host families were there to support them, and it kind of brought them closer together. So I think the host families, they have to be prepared to open up their hearts and their homes to this person coming into their family, and kind of go through everything together. And sometimes we hear stories, a lot of the time actually, of au pairs and host families staying in touch years and years after they've left the USA. Some of them, they'll travel to meet each other, whether it's back in the USA or whether it's in the au pair's home country. And some of them even attend the au pair's wedding in the future. So that's just really nice to hear. And it's really not uncommon.
I think it just speaks to the depth of connection that can happen over that time, which is just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at folks who might excel as an au pair, is there a particular persona or type of person or particular interests that make somebody a really good candidate to become an au pair?
Yeah, so the type of person you would need to be an au pair, I would say this opportunity would be really good for someone who has just finished high school or college or university and isn't quite sure of what their next steps are. But I also think, that's the same sort of reason for any gap year. I think that's definitely something that a lot of people would consider when taking a gap year. But I think it's good for if someone who wants to take a year out and just to live in a new environment without sacrificing their savings. So I think what's great about au pair in America is that they do get paid weekly. I think it's $195.75 or something like that, minimum. So a lot of the au pairs get paid a bit more than that, but that's the kind of minimum they get per week. Whereas I think a lot of cultural exchange opportunities are more about the experience, and they kind of capitalize on and how it's more of an experience rather than work. So you won't get like a huge amount of money, if any money at all. So I think au pair in America is good for if you want to earn money and have a kind of year out and have an adventure. But I also think it's for the type of person who wants to go into childcare, obviously, or has experience with childcare. Not that you need too much experience with childcare to be able to do the program. You don't need to have any qualifications or anything like that. You just need to have 200 hours of childcare experience. But it's definitely for people who want to go down that sort of route. And you know what, the one thing that most of our applicants say is that they have the American dream. I had the American dream, and that's why I went to America to do Camp America. But I think if anyone has the American dream, seeing those US high schools, on Netflix, grew up watching American TV and film and just kind of wanting to go to Times Square and look around and feel like they're in a movie. I think Au Pair in America definitely can do that for you. And so many of our au pairs will say that they just feel like they're in a movie when they're there, and they finally get to experience that American dream. So I think it's definitely for those people who have that. And apart from that, I think it's just for people who want to travel, make new friends, make a new family for life. And for a lot of people, obviously, improving their English is a huge part of why they become an au pair. And just people who are up for an adventure.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of people on a gap year. So we've got multiple benefits here. So there is the folks who are looking to earn some money on their year while still getting that immersive cultural experience, and really being able to develop some skills along the way that they can add to their resume, especially if they're heading into the education sector or the childcare sector. Or personal cares, personal support workers, social work. All of these streams of potential careers are really bolstered by having such a foundational level of experience before you've even maybe graduated from university. So it can really build your resume, build your skills, and give you clarity. What is this a direction that I want to head with my career? So from a tactical standpoint, that's one thing, but also having that travel experience and that sense of adventure, a sense of seeing new places while also having familiarity at the same time, because you're going to be with that same family. And I think that that's a really unique traveler that wants that ability to see new things, but it not be quite so scary and independent and fast paced, because you do get that experience of being paired with that family, and having that stability at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
So if we go back to that kind of like tactical side of things, when people finish their au pair experience and they're coming out and they've got all of these additional skills that they might have developed, what are some of the things that you hear from your alum about their experience from a skill building perspective?
So, I mean, there's just so many, and I'm constantly in touch with our alumni. If I'm not getting messages from them in our inbox about how they want to just tell us, they just want to tell us about their experience. They want to just send us an email saying, hey, I had such a great experience, listen to my story. They want us to do something with it. So I'll be kind of emailing alumni about doing blogs, or they'll be doing takeovers on our social media, which is kind of like them gaining responsibility for our Instagram, and going on our stories and just kind of doing a takeover. Or they'll be in touch because we've got a lot of alumni groups for networking reasons. So I'm in touch with a lot of alumni, and they'll all be saying things like, it got them out of their comfort zone. It gave them a lot of confidence. They learned a lot about themselves. One of the top ones is they learn who they are. They discover who they are during this experience. And I think that's like maybe number one thing that they learn and they take away from the experience. And they learn to become confident, and they get pushed out of their comfort zone, because of course they do. New country, new people, a new culture, and for a lot of people a new language as well. So it's going to push you out of your comfort zone, but then you take that away and you learn to kind of push yourself in the future, because you've made such a leap to become an au pair in a different country. So a lot of them are grateful for that. And I guess it's all about that independence. And they gain, because of the childcare experience, they gain leadership skills. They learn to be organized, responsible, and they become aware of different cultures. So they have this kind of worldly knowledge by the time that their year ends. So I think there's so many skills that you can gain from the experience, but a lot of them, those are kind of the top ones that we hear about the most.
And I think that ability to get out of your comfort zone creates so many opportunities. And I think getting away from your regular environment that you were in high school, the same people, the same family, the same neighborhood, the same friends, the same school, and completely removing yourself from that allows you to critically look back at yourself almost as you're like a new person and say, okay, well,
Yeah.
actually, who am I? Because when I was in high school, when I was in my own home, I was the same person that everybody knew me as since I was a child. But getting out there and being in a new environment with new people allows you a sense of redefinition.
Oh yeah.
Who am I going to be when I show up? What are those things that have been following me that I don't want to follow me to
Yeah.
this new place? Or how do I want to have people perceive me that have never met me before, or they don't know my family? I've got this independence to experiment a little bit with who I am, and that with that comes confidence, with that comes independence, and you can come back almost a whole new person,
Yeah.
taking the good parts of who you were and just adding to them, and letting go of some of those other parts that maybe have just been following you around for a while.
Definitely. I think it's such a rare opportunity to be able to reinvent yourself and kind of start a whole new chapter of your life. I think it's an opportunity that not a lot of people get. And when you go somewhere new and you're around people that don't know you, it's fun. It's like a new opportunity to kind of be, right, who am I going to be? If these people don't know who I was before, then I can be anyone I want. And that's where your confidence comes out, and that's where you learn more things about yourself, because you can sort of be anyone you want to be. And I think that's just like a really rare experience, and it's just so much fun. And it's exactly what I did when I went to Camp America. I was around people, new people for the first time, and I mean, just in those 3 months, I learned so much about myself. And I can't even imagine what it's like for the au pairs who are there for a year. Um, it's crazy.
It's just such a great growth opportunity from a personal level, as well as that skill building, which is really neat. Now, I bet there are some pretty memorable stories that you've heard, or pretty memorable takeaways from some of the folks who have been au pairs and have been part of these families. Are there any particular stories that stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. Gosh, so I mean, I guess in general, the most common story would be, the au pair makes best friends for life. That is definitely like almost a guarantee that you will make best friends for life. And so a lot of them, we get a lot of stories of people, saying, "Oh, I became an au pair 20 years ago, and I'm still in touch with the friends I made there, and we visit each other all the time." And, they'll travel across the world to see their friends, and they'll keep those connections. So yeah, that's a really, really common thing that we hear from our alumni. But there's also a lot of like kind of career stories as well. So I think there was one girl from Italy, I think her name was Francesca. She's now a head fashion designer in Dubai. And she says that it's because of her time in the USA. So apparently so obviously, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you can study whilst you're an au pair. And she did a fashion course during her year, and she met a lot of people on that course. And she says that led to her getting her dream job in Dubai when she returned, when her experience was over. And she said that she wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for her year in the USA, and kind of the people she met during that time, and the kind of course that she took, and the kind of skills that she gained from the experience. So yeah, she kind of gives us credit for that, which I think is great to hear that story from her. Seems like she's living the dream now in Dubai, which is amazing. So that's one story in particular that I always remember, because it just shows that you can do au pair in America, and it can lead you to places that you wouldn't even dream of in the future. But yeah, so those kind of stories. Another story, I also we heard this story a couple of weeks ago actually. An au pair was getting married in Brazil, in her home country, and her old host mum walked her down the aisle, which was amazing to hear. And the host child, so the host child of the au pair was the flower girl as well. So it was just such cute and wholesome and amazing stories. They're really touching, and we hear these sorts of things all the time.
Yeah, I think those relationship stories are so key, whether they are inheriting or building a new family in addition to your own. I think is so powerful. But it's also interesting that you talk a little bit about expanding your network, like the example with Francesca, especially in such a globalized world. Having more people who know you and know your strengths and have a relationship with you, that's going to help you grow from your professional life in terms of being able to find opportunities, because the larger your network, the more people you can put your questions out to, whether you're looking for a job or you're looking for maybe some sort of support or coach or spiritual guide or whatever your quest is. Whoever you're looking for, the larger your network, the more likely you are going to be able to be connected to that person. So just by sheer ability to go to another country and to expand your network into another country and do it on such a deep level, it can be really, really powerful.
Agreed. Totally agree.
So, speaking of networks, becoming an au pair is a little bit more complicated than just kind of throwing a finger on a map saying, I'm going to move here and find a family to take me in. That usually doesn't turn out so well. So, there's organizations like yours that can support people in the process, but maybe what does that look like a little bit? Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we try and make the process as uncomplicated as possible. We try and give as much support as possible. So we basically, how we facilitate it is we partner with local agencies in that au pair's home country. So we have local agencies all over the world, I think in about 50 different countries. And and those are our partners who help us recruit au pairs in that country. So for example, our partner in Canada is called Scotia Personnel. And they are our one and only partner in Canada, and they will help us recruit Canadian au pairs for our program. And they will act basically as experts about our program, and they can speak to the applicants, directly, whether it's on the phone, text, email. We will assign an interviewer from that agency to the applicant, and they will be there they will be by their side through the whole application process virtually, obviously. And they will also be the one that interviews them. So I guess it's just a way of making sure that it's a really personal process and they understand the applicant's culture and language and what's going on with, the embassy and any travel restrictions, and making sure that they can meet that person, that applicant in person. So yeah, I think that's just the way that we make sure that the whole process is easy and smooth and just really personal.
That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Scotia Personnel is ours for Canada. And yeah, we love Scotia Personnel so much. And I'll give you guys the link to their social media whenever you need it.
Perfect. So we will add that in the show notes for this, so people can follow along if they're interested. So if a Canadian was interested in applying to become an au pair in the US, would they reach out to Scotia Personnel?
Yeah, I mean, you can reach out to Scotia Personnel or you can reach out to us. And then we would assign you an interviewer from Scotia personnel, and then you would work with, and they would work with Scotia personnel through the process. And Canada is one of the countries actually that doesn't need a visa to do the program. So, no embassy visit is needed. You don't need a visa. You can just pretty much go through. So it's not actually that complicated for Canadians. And actually this year as well, there is no program fee. So for the whole year, if you apply by the end of this year, you don't need to pay anything to do the program, which is pretty rare actually. But yeah, that's just a promotion we have going on. So it's a great time to be an au pair, I think.
Perfect. Well, we will make sure to link to all of those spots in the show notes. So if you are interested, please, please, please check it out. Natalia, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed being on the podcast, and thank you so much for having me.